Have you ever wanted to farm something but don't know where it drops? Is navigating through the crafter's pattern list too confusing? Do you wish you could just search a part's name and instantly find the best place with the highest drop rate to farm it? Well, you actually can. In today's video, we're going to give you a quick rundown of the Access Info tab, which is hands down the best information source of the entire game. We're also going to show you an external website that you can use to try and find patterns that drop multiple things you need in one pattern. The Access Info tab is an in-game Wikipedia that contains every item in the game, as well as details about crafting the item, its drop locations, and the drop rates when applicable. You can even track items you're after to easily keep tabs on your farming process. It's a resource that every player in the game should be familiar with, and by the end of this video, you'll be navigating through here like a pro. The Access Info tab is located right next to your map. It's organized into various categories, including descendants, weapons, mods, and amorphous materials, which I will refer to as patterns. If you select a category, you can navigate through all its respective items and see information about what is needed to craft that item. For this example, we can see what's needed to craft Ultimate Bunny. We can search how to get each material via the acquisition info pop-up. But, since this only shows where it drops from, it's not so great to use when searching for the blueprints. However, what we can do is go over to the pattern section and search for that specific blueprint name. This will list every pattern in-game that can drop that part, and you can hover over each pattern to see its respective drop rate. You can search how to get each pattern via the acquisition info pop-up, and can see where you open each pattern via the linked reconstruction device info pop-up. Using this information, you can decide on what pattern to farm. Once you've decided on a pattern, you can track that pattern so it pops up on your Access Info tab, as well as in your item tracking list when in the game world. A small tip that may or may not be useful that I noticed is that the solid patterns are open at Void Intercept bosses, while the stringy patterns are open at a Void Reactor, which are the overworld mini-bosses that require Void Shards to summon. Personally, I try to avoid Void Reactor patterns because I hate the 20% pattern drop rate and the monotonous Void Shard grind. But sometimes it's unavoidable as the part drop rate is too good to ignore, or because you're just SOL. We can also track things such as crafting materials and modules if needed. As a more official example, I'm currently farming the Blue Beetle. We'll head over to the weapon section and note down each blueprint that I need. One blueprint each for a polymer synctum, a synthetic fiber, and a nanotube, as well as the gun blueprint itself. We switch over to the pattern tab and search each part to find the pattern with the highest drop rate that we want to farm. Here, we select this pattern because it drops the Blue Beetle polymer synctum at 32%, as well as the Ultimate Glaze Stabilizer, which I need at 6%. As we move on to the next piece, I'll point out here that you can spend less time typing simply by using the last word of the gun's name and the first word of the piece you're after, just because that's how this search bar works. We repeat this process for the remaining parts, and now we have all 4 ideal patterns for our gun tracked and ready to farm. And that's how simple it is to find the best pattern for what you're after. But if we want to take this a step further, we can use this pattern suggester website that was developed by another player in order to try and find a pattern that drops multiple things that we want in one. Simply search for the items you want to farm, and the website will tell you if there's a pattern that drops them via the priority count column. This column shows how many matches each pattern has in the parentheses. If there's 2 searched items matching that pattern, it'll show a 2 instead of a 1. You can also adjust the filters to include or exclude certain difficulties, bosses, void reactors, and etc. The link to the website will be in the description as it is kind of funky. And that's all there is to it. Thanks for watching guys, and happy farming.